Welcome to Inspired Edinburgh, the home of powerful conversations. I'm Elliot Reeves, and my guest today is Jamie DENYER. Jamie, also known as the Grief Preacher, is a TEDx motivational and inspirational speaker. On the 14th of April 2012, at the age of 19, your beloved nephew Connor Saunders lost his life to a single punch. You since founded Connor's Helping Hand, an organisation through which you deliver workshops and talks raising awareness of one-punch murder in order to educate others on the devastation it brings and to prevent it from affecting as many families as possible. Jamie, I'm truly honoured to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me, sir. Thank you very much.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's an absolute pleasure. I think I probably should have made that sentence shorter, but yeah, I mean, I've obviously watched your TED talk, which I have to be honest is up there with the best that I've seen. Yeah.
I really appreciate that, because I mean the TED talk itself has taught me so much. I mean the comments that are on there. There is one that actually says that is the best TED talk that I've seen, but you look at the other comments there, very powerful, life-changing, very positive stuff. But there is negative on there as well, and it's like a lot of people can be on the outside looking in saying, how can someone who is a grieving uncle, family member, who is trying to bring education and kind of help and support to those who are truly hurting about this particular subject, how could they possibly have any negativity on there? But that's life in general. So it's an example that no matter what you do in this life, no matter how positive, productive, well-meaning, you will always get negativity and haters. And that's an example to these young kids who are going through stuff via social media, i.e. bullying and stuff like that. Yeah,
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. We were talking about that before we had the cameras rolling, and it's certainly something that I want to kind of hear more about, because obviously you go into schools and you can see this firsthand. Before we get there, let's go back to kind of, the origin story. Where is Jamie DENYER from? Who is Jamie DENYER? And what's kind of your background?
Born in Brighton in 1977 to one of the most amazing mums that you could ever wish for. I suppose when you look at my childhood, listen, I had never wanted for anything. I mean, we were council estate, but my mum was incredible, and I had two older sisters as well who are, and will continue to be like my support system, either side of me, very inspirational women. So I've been surrounded by inspirational women my entire life. And it went up a notch when my dad left when I was around about 9 years old. So a lot of people can see that as a negative. A lot of people experience that, and it kind of throws them off the rails a little bit. But do you know what? I never wanted for anything. I never missed out on anything with those strong women in my life. And now as a dad to two little girls now, one of them who's nearly 6, one of them who's going to be 2 in a couple of weeks. Yeah, strong women always have seemed to play a big part in my life. Absolutely.
I mentioned this to you before we started. I'm really interested in, I suppose, the way you present yourself. Your attire, the way you kind of speak as well. What has kind of influenced that?
It's basically been me, myself. I think there's a lot of people out there that dress a certain way just to be different. They just want to make an impact. But when you go back to my roots, when I was 9 years old, when my sister took me to my first Beastie Boys, Run DMC and Public Enemy concert, like the Def Jam tour, I was 9 years old, man. So when I'm that, when you're influenced by that, when hip hop is and has always been and is your favourite genre of music. You was in a breakdancing crew kind of growing up, and I was subject to bullying when I was younger, because my friend's cousin lived out in New York, and he used to send me over. Now he had a massive interest in hip hop. I loved hip hop. And he would send me over some of the latest fashions, some of the American fashions, and you can imagine back in the mid to late 80s. Wearing the latest stuff from America that haven't even hit the shores yet. They were. I was a target. I was a proper target. So yeah, it's just wearing what I always have done. It's not for effect. It's where I've always been. And my history my history tells you that as well, because of all what I've been involved in.
Yeah, it's just, I suppose, your way of truly expressing yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is an example to others. Listen, culture will tell you to be to be a certain way, to dress a certain way. You have to, and they will listen. Just go out and do you, be you. Don't ever change, because who you are is extraordinary. Just stay as you are.
What was your career path? You know, what did you start doing, and where did that kind of lead you?
Well, I suppose career path, first and foremost, where loads of other people started, the good old paper round.
Yeah.
You know, the character building, paper round. But then, when I was 13 and a half, like growing up on a council estate, when you're witness to a couple of murders, there's a load of drug dealers, a load of drug users within the flats, in the council estate and where you live. You'd hearing doors being bashed in at 2:30 in the morning, police dogs being set off, you know. You're in and around that environment, and you have a certain choice to make. Do you listen? I had some incredible friends, but they always seemed to be older than me, so I grew up quite quickly. But I had a choice to make, whether I kind of followed some of them into what they were doing, or take myself out of the equation, take myself out of the environment. And what I did was, I said to my brother-in-law, who was a fully qualified plasterer and had his plastering business, there, listen, I want to learn the plastering trade. So when I was 13 and a half, I learned plastering. Now, you can't just all of a sudden drop school at 13 and a half. So what you have to do is sacrifice. When my friends were down on Brighton Beach during the 6-week summer holiday, you know, catching a tan, I was down in some dingy dark basement, you know, plastering. But I was always the one with some money at the end of the week. But whatever I earned, you know, some of it went to my mum. So I knew what it was like to have to sacrifice stuff to pay your way. You know, you had to give what you earned, you know. So nothing come easy. You had to put in effort. So it was all this work ethic that kind of served me well in the future. From what I learned when I was 13 and a half, like.
Yeah. But my understanding, because I've listened to your podcast with Kirk, the Dougie Stone podcast, I understand that you did a lot for other people even when you plastered. You know, you were always, I suppose it's within you to help others. Very much so.
I mean, I went through, at the tail end of 2007 when I was living in Essex, you know, I was married up there. I had a workforce plastering up there. And yeah, you know, I had a mortgage, you know, £250,000 house. You know, the life was rosy, but then all of a sudden divorce come around, financial ruin, and then the credit crunch hit, and you know, the value of my house plummeted. So I had to make a fresh start, and I came from Essex to Swansea, which is where I'm now living with my beautiful wife Emma, and you know, my 2 beautiful girls, and I've also got a son Ryan as well, who's 22, and a beautiful grandson Teddy as well, who's going to be 1 in December. So I moved up, and I had a lot of weight around my neck. I had a lot of burden, a lot of responsibility, because I had to borrow money to kind of make a fresh start in the worst economical time in modern history. People were saying to me that you're going to a different country in the worst economical time in modern history. You are a self-employed plasterer, and, you know, you've got to build a reputation. You've got all this debt around your neck. You have to pay this loan back. You have to pay a mortgage. You're going to have to pay the bills. You know, James, are you insane? But it was at that point, and that was being told to me by financial advisors, my accountants, you know, all well-meaning, you know, even my family, my friends. So, but they, I suppose, forgot or didn't know the lessons in which I learned back when I was 13 and a half, when my friends were on Brighton Beach. I sacrificed stuff to be in a basement. I knew what it was like to pay my way. I knew what it was like to have to put in that effort and show that resilience, and that came into play. So there's a massive lesson that no matter what you go through in life, and no matter how hard it is at that particular time, you have no idea at that particular time how it can and most probably will serve you later on in life. So it's kind of like life boot camp, really, that it's preparing you for challenges that are coming up. And that's when, I moved to Swansea, and I then realised that within life as well, you have to go above and beyond what other people are doing. You have to not just think outside the box, but go and do outside the box. And that's when I phoned up the local newspaper and I said, listen, I don't want you to think that I'm some sort of lunatic, but I want to put an offer out. I've been through some hard times and I want to put an offer out. And they said, well, what's that? I said, I am going to plaster a room free of charge once a month for deserving families. And they said, right, it's a fantastic offer. Why do you want to do it? And I told them why. But then they said, right, we want to do a newspaper article about it. And then when you choose someone that you want to do the free room makeover for, or plaster the room free of charge, we want to do a follow-up story. But then, because it went in the paper, other trades started offering their help. So it wasn't just plastering a room free of charge, it was a complete room makeover. Wow. Now, we were doing this for youngsters with cancer, cerebral palsy, blind and autistic, young bullying victims, victims of domestic violence, low-income families that didn't have a penny to rub together. Now, I wasn't in a financial position to do it myself, but it was just pure guts, determination, willpower, and you know, the want to make a change. So then all of a sudden, these newspaper articles are coming out, and people could see my character, that I was trustworthy, I went above and beyond. And then, you know, I'm not going to lie that it did help me get more plastering business, but that wasn't my aim.
Yeah.
Yes, it helped me, and it enabled me to kind of go up against other people, and then people chose me over others because they could see who I was and what I was doing. But yeah, the payment in which it gave back to see a young kid, you know, their face light up, or a family saying, thank you for restoring my faith in the male gender again, because I'm a victim of domestic abuse, and men have beaten me since, since as long as I can remember. Jeez. And now all of a sudden an army of men come in and give you this room space. So it worked not just on a materialistic level, it worked on an emotional level, psychological level. But then I was getting reports back from places like Canada, a screenshot of a front page newspaper in a place called Red Deer in Canada. And this woman named me by name, saying, Jamie Denyer has inspired me to do this in my community. Then I was getting reports back from South Africa and Australia and New Zealand, of people doing the same. So I'm like, man, and this is the example that whatever skill, talent, service, or product that you have, you can use it to change other people's lives. And with how technology is, the eyes of the world are on you, just make it something worth seeing.
That's just an incredible story. And it's so good to hear that, there are good people out there doing good things, which I suppose you don't tend to hear a lot about.
No, and that's the fault of the media. That's the fault of the culture in which we live in. Scandal sells, drama sells, and positivity gets pushed to the back burner, unfortunately. But sometimes you feel like salmon swimming upstream, doing the good in amongst the tidal wave of negativity. But I just encourage people, keep on swimming upstream.
Brilliant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who was Connor Saunders? Tell me about Connor.
Man, I don't actually think we've got long enough to do this boy justice. But it's one of my most favourite things, talking about this boy. He was born on the 25th of March 1993. He was born at 3 in the morning, and he was 9 pounds 6 ounces born. He was my sister and my brother-in-law's third child. He completed the family, Connor, Callum and Courtney. And the family was complete. Beautiful little soul, right from the off. He was like my mum, his nan's shadow. He loved his nan. But as he grew, he grew into an extraordinary young man. His morals, his personality and his character was, listen, nobody's perfect. But how he kind of looked at life and how he dealt with life, it was as close to perfect as you could get. It was like, even when people kind of done him wrong, I'll just give you like an example. If people done him wrong, even if it was someone who was considered to be a friend and they had done him wrong, his motto was, it's all right, it's them that's got to live with it. Don't worry. Nothing fazed the boy. Mm-hmm. Whereas we're in a culture now that if someone says something about us, oh man, we have to go back, we have to retaliate, and whether it's verbal, whether it's physical, whether it's emotional. Someone does something to us, we have to retaliate. It's a no-brainer. Mm-hmm. He was just like, oh man, come on, look, it's them that's got to live with it. Don't worry. But he seemed to have life sussed. Incredible soul. And just complete and utter devastation when his life was taken on the 14th of April 2012. Life would never ever be the same again. And yeah, that's a bomb going off, and it can happen at any time.
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a bit about what happened, and I suppose the impact that has had on the lives, you know, closest to him, his family, your family.
Absolutely. It's one of them things that it doesn't just take the life of a person. It doesn't just change the life of the perpetrator. The whole circle of immediate family, distant family, friends, colleagues, their lives will never ever be the same again. It is just not you have to learn to cope with what has been dropped at your door. There is no blueprint, there is no rules in which to follow, there is no guidelines. You are literally surviving on a daily basis. And how it played out was on April the 15th at 1:30 in the morning, I received a call from my sister, and she said, "You need to get in your car, Jamie, you need to drive to Brighton from Swansea, 4 hours away. You need to get in your car and you need to drive down now. Connor's been attacked and he's in the hospital." And I thought to myself, well, okay, he's busted up bad because he's in the hospital, but he's in the best place because he's in the hospital. Unbeknownst to me at that particular time, my sister had been told the news that 99% Connor wouldn't make it. And therein was a lesson of just how extraordinary my sister is. She was given that news and she had to absorb that news, and she had to get on the phone to her baby brother and give that news, give me just enough to make it important enough for me to drive down, but withhold info that would make me drive like a lunatic and put me at risk. But I didn't know what was waiting for me. I didn't know that the game changer was waiting for me, and that's when I walked into that hospital, and that's bad in itself. But when you walk into an intensive care unit, that's something completely different. That is the game changer. That's the bomb going off. Life as you know it, never going to be the same again. And yeah, what I witnessed, I wouldn't wish upon my worst enemy. And that was my family surrounding Connor. When I walked through those curtains, my family surrounding Connor. And just complete devastation. People broken, hearts broken, spirits broken, personalities and characters changed forever. But even though then, like, we still had hope that Connor could pull through. But looking back now, Connor was unfortunately forever asleep at that time. But even amongst that devastation, Connor Saunders carried on showing us and telling us who he was, showing us the path in which we must follow, the examples in which we must take on board and carry out. Just like he used to say, it's them that's got to live with it. Don't worry. He taught us to give of ourselves. We have to go out and give, because he saved 7 people's lives with his organs, including the life of a 10-month-old baby girl, 5-year-old boy, and we've got letters from the recipients. And one of them in particular said, "I wasn't told a lot about Connor. I was told that he was 19 years old and I was about to receive the Rolls Royce of livers." He said, "You won't know how close I came to death because my liver got an infection, and my dad had to give me 60% of his own liver because we can survive up to 40% of our liver. My dad, out of desperation, gave me 60% of his own." And you would think, well, genetically, it's a match. That's it, game over. But unfortunately, his body rejected it, and he was close to death. He said, "Then I received the phone call that changed my life, which was the news that they had got a liver for me." And then you think about phone calls, that the phone call that changed his life, you think about the parents, my sister, my brother-in-law, that received a phone call 48 hours prior to that changed their life as well. "Your son's been attacked, he's in the hospital." He said, when the liver went in, he said, although I had to fight off infection, although I was still at risk, because it was a major operation, he said the doctors and nurses had never ever seen it before, that I had complete function after 1 hour. That doesn't surprise me with Connor Saunders. The Rolls Royce of livers had gone in, and he said, "Connor has allowed me to see my son's 2nd birthday which ultimately has allowed him to see his son's 3rd birthday, 4th birthday, 5th. He said, music was a big part of my life. He said, I can tour with my band. He said, but I'm writing this letter to you on my wedding day. He said, because Connor has allowed me to marry my college sweetheart. So Connor Saunders' work was evident. So talk about giving of yourself. He took it to next level, which he then inspired others to sign the organ donation register. You look at the work that's been done in his honour for the Connor Saunders Foundation. Up to date, they've given out 65, my sister and my niece have given out 65 defibrillators to schools, to football teams, to rugby teams, keeping them heart safe, teaching kids CPR, a life skill, a £75,000 mugger that was built, a multi-use games arena down on Rottingdean seafront there where kids can go and play. It's basketball nets, there's five-a-side football goals, there's littler goals that go across the court. You've got cricket stumps for kids to go and play, and it still kind of helps heal my sister and my brother-in-laws and my niece and my nephew and my mum's broken heart when people say, people that we don't even know, we had a fantastic time down at Connor's Court today. And just little things like that, you have to try and see and have to search for the crumb of comfort in amongst all the debris.
Absolutely, yeah. Because I was really thinking that, in amongst so much darkness, how do you find any light or any sort of way in which to look at it in a positive way?
It's hard. You have to search through debris, you have to search through carnage on a daily basis. It affects people like you would not believe. My brother-in-law has always been a massive idol to me. Along with my granddad, the 2 biggest male influences that I've had in my life, because my dad left when I was young, like I say. But right from the age of 18 or 19, now my brother-in-law had his own business, grafter, proper grafter, and he had a very, very flourishing and affluent plastering and damp proofing company, but that went after 3-4 months because he couldn't function as a human being because of the murder of his son. So then there's other people out of work. Then all of a sudden their livelihood, is gone. Your house is put at risk. The car in which they had, that had to be sold for a fraction of the price just to keep food in the cupboards, a roof over their head. That's what it does to people. It tests you to your very limit. Every fibre of your being is tested to within breaking point, and you don't know how you're going to get through it. You don't know, but you know what? Then you come to the realisation that you're still standing. You look at yourself in the mirror and you think, do you know what I am? I'm still standing. I don't know how. I'm still on my feet, but I'm doing this now, not just for myself. I'm doing this for my loved one. And what I've come to realise, Elliot, is death is inevitable. Grief is a certainty. There are different levels of grief, but grief is grief. If it is painful, think of it in a good way, because on the different ends of the spectrum, the severity of the grief in which you carry is testament to the amount of love that you have, and will forever have for that person. If you haven't got that severity of grief, it means you didn't have that amount of love. If you didn't really care about somebody, yes, it would be hurtful, but you would get over it. But if you're fighting on a daily basis to survive and you don't know how you're going to get through the next day, it means you had somebody in your life who meant the world to you. And that's why people ask me, Jamie, why are you so passionate when you speak? Why do you speak with so much authority? Why are you like a machine gun going off that you can just carry on going, be it an hour talk, 2 hour talks, 3 hour talks? And one of the comments on my TEDx talk was, why is this guy so angry?
Yeah, I saw that.
He needs counselling. He needs a therapist. And I said, listen, don't ever confuse anger with passion. Anger will want to hurt you and help you and destroy your dreams. Passion will want to help you build your dreams and get to your dreams. The reason that I speak with so much passion and why I'm the speaker who I am is because he meant the world to me. So I have to give him the world when I speak. I speak for 2. His voice was taken. So I speak for him as well.
Jeez.
And it's one of those that I can't, honestly, Elliot, I could just talk about this young man forever, but I would speak to him to an empty room. that's the thing. But honestly, it's people will go through this, and just take some comfort that the severity of grief in which you feel is the mirror image of the love that you had. And would you change it? Would you change it? And my sister came out with the game-changing comment. She said, I would rather be the parents of the murdered than be the parents of a murderer. That there, she said, I would rather have 19 years and 20 days with Connor Saunders than 80 years with a life taker.
Jeez.
So it's game-changing.
Yeah. So, it was a 14-year-old that punched Connor, and it was a coward's punch, which caused him to fall, and that was the thing that really, did the damage. He pled not guilty to manslaughter, and he got off with no charge. Yeah. I don't want to speak for you, but if I were in that situation, I don't know that I could contain the anger, the resentment, and the fury, So what do you do with that when that feeling comes up? How do you suppress it? Or do you channel it? How do you deal with it?
Energy has to go somewhere. Yeah. Energy does not disappear. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm some kind of top of the range physicist or something, but energy can't disappear, but you can change it. You can change energy. It has to be put somewhere, bounce it back. So it is a righteous anger that's channeled, and it's put into, then moulded into passion. I'm very passionate about that young man. I'm very passionate about what I do. But when there's that reason that you made a promise, I made a promise to that young man. When he was declared forever asleep, like I held his head and I kissed his forehead and I whispered into his ear, Connor, I am going to look after your family as best I can, but I won't let them fall, and people will know your name. So that promise there is what I'm striving to keep. So when that's your motivation and fuel, I channel it to go onto a stage, or when I speak to an audience. People can call me angry if they like, but again, it doesn't faze me. People who say stuff about me, write stuff about me, you want to be a keyboard warrior, listen, crack on. Because do you know what? You don't understand where myself and my family have come from and what we've endured. We've endured the mocking on social media of us for Connor's killing. The people that were involved, they wore it like a badge of honour. They were bragging about it. People trolling us, people setting up fake accounts and using Connor's picture and writing vulgar stuff. We got vulgar emails, we got vulgar text messages, vulgar tweets. That's what we had endured. And if we go through that, do you think anyone that kind of wants to call me out or say anything about me would actually have any effect on me? No. Connor's battle hardened me, and I thank him for that. It's just a gift, another gift in which he's given.
But how does it not make you hate the world? It must have will have certainly had an impact on how you perceive the world after that happened as to before it. So how has that changed?
It does actually turn you into a person that you don't want to be if you let it. You get to that point where you remember films in which you watched, like let's say for instance Gerard Butler in Law Abiding Citizen, when you had that guy up on the table and you start thinking to yourself, I would love to get you on the table. I'd love to gaffer tape you to that table, and I would do damage. I would do damage, and then you're, whoa, hang on a minute, this isn't me. As I am right now, this is a million miles away from Connor. I have to strive to be like Connor. Because here's the thing, as soon as this happened, as soon as his life was taken, myself, his mum, his dad, his brother, his sister, my mum, we all of a sudden became an ambassador for Connor Saunders. Because when you are living with a not guilty verdict, even though all the evidence was there, everything was there, but when you're dealing with a 14-year-old, you knew that the weight was indeed against you, no matter how much evidence. That we had to show, no matter whether we like it or not, that the apple does not fall far from the tree. and how we conducted ourselves at that very moment, from then on, will show the world where Connor came from. They will see parents who battle back from grief and want to do good, give out defibrillators, football coaching to disabled and disadvantaged youngsters in schools, to give CPR training. They will see an uncle travelling the width and the breadth and the depth of this country, educating in schools, colleges, universities, youth offender institutes, prisons. They will see that the apple does not fall far from the tree. So we became ambassadors at that point. But it's not what we wanted. But here's the thing, so many people do what they want, or they think it's about them. Afterwards, once something like this happens, you think, what would they want? What would they do? What would they want me to do? And even though it goes against every fibre of your being, you have to take up the mantle and become an ambassador for that person's name. You have to represent them as best you can.
It's such a beautiful thing to do. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely applaud your composure and your ability to be able to, you know, kind of handle it, because it's just such an awful thing.
And like I say, there's no guidelines, there's no rule book in which to follow. You are surviving on a daily basis, and it is literally a war. You're thrown behind enemy lines. You've got no weapons in which to defend yourself. You are just surviving on a daily basis, and you'll never go AWOL from this war. You'll never get discharged from this war. It's there forever. And you know, you will get those days where you walk through that minefield and you tread on a mine, which is a trigger. You'll hear that song that they loved. You will be looking through some old clothes, and then all of a sudden a photo will come down of them, and just everything. You'll receive a vile message, or you know, mocking, or you know, something will trigger it, and that's like stepping on a mine that day. But you take the blast, you dust yourself down, and you just get through that day. Just take it on a daily basis, because that's all you can do. Baby steps to progression and healing, because baby steps is progress nonetheless, even though it is a small step. Even if you're standing still, you are still standing, and that's what you have to do on a daily basis.
Yeah. This is a sort of a trivial thing, you know, in the relative to sort of the big picture, but I just really wanted to ask you this. The 14-year-old was, for legal reasons, protected. The identity was never given out. I mean, do you agree with that?
No, I don't.
No,
not at all. Not at all. That's one thing that I've said to people, and I don't want to sound morbid in any shape, way or form, but if this does come to your door, just hope and pray that they're over the age of 17, because when they are below that age, man, they are protected. And I'm all for having the support for these youngsters, because a lot of them, I'm saying that when I'm going into youth offender institutes and I'm going into schools, they are getting labelled, and they are good kids. And do you know what? Some of them, that's all they've wanted was a cuddle. That's all they've wanted was someone to believe in them, someone to spend time with them. Because my sister, before this, she said, I would not have blamed the parents in any shape, way or form before this. It's the perpetrator, their actions alone. But after this, we saw the family in which this boy come from, and she said, man, he didn't stand a chance. He didn't stand a chance. You see the bloodline which he come from. You see their morals. You see their personality and their character. They see what they do. The dad was apparently proud that his son possessed a punch so hard.
Oh, fucking hell.
So when you're up against that and you see these kids, because we as a family, it's very alien to us, because I'm very lucky to have the family in which I got. They're changed people now. They're different to what I knew 5.5, 6 years ago. They're different people, but they're still my family, and they're great, but in other ways. They're inspirational and beautiful, but in other ways now. but we invested in the young members of our family. Connor, I was 15 years old when Connor was born, and every Friday night and Saturday night, my niece Courtney and Callum and Connor would stay with my mum for the weekend, would stay with us for the weekend. So they grew up and they were like my little sister, they were like my little brothers as well. They were like my friends. Mm-hmm. That's what Connor was, rolled into one. And the sign of love and affection that you have for people is who you choose to have beside you at your most important times. Connor was the head usher at my wedding. His older brother Callum was my best man. So we were more than uncle, nephew. We were friends. We were like brothers. So we always invested in them. And when I'm dealing with youngsters nowadays, at 13 and 14, and they can't hold a knife and fork properly, they can't tie their own shoes, because that level, the basic level of investment has not been shown to them. You see that these parents have failed. You need a license to watch a TV. You need a license to go fishing. Anyone can just knock out kids left, right and centre and just throw them on a scrap heap. And a lot of these kids who are in young offender institutes, who are in prisons and stuff, who are very dysfunctional and disruptive in schools, they just need a bit of love, care and affection. They just need a hug. They just need time. They just need encouragement. Do you know what, you've done really well there? And when I go in and I do a talk, I'm saying, listen, I don't know your backgrounds, but I might be the only positive male role model in your life at this particular time. So this is an opportunity for me, and I'm not going to let this opportunity go to waste. I want to tell you something. If this is the only time that you'll ever see me or hear me talk, this is what I need to say to you. This is the level of investment. So when you look at these youth workers, when you look at these amazing people that are doing amazing stuff with kids, they're not just educating kids, they're not just developing these kids, they're actual lifesavers, because they could potentially be stopping these kids from going down this spiral, this downward spiral of their behaviour, and incidentally taking someone's life further on down the line. So they're not just workers, they're superheroes. Superheroes, they're lifesavers, because a chain of events could happen that youngster could take someone's life. But that's all they need, is the basic human qualities, the basic human need of a cuddle, encouragement, support. And it's amazing how many parents are failing. And when I'm dealing with youngsters, let's say in gang culture, and you look at these youngsters who are getting influenced to go into a gang, it's because you're not telling your daughter how beautiful she is and how incredible she is. The leader of a gang is telling her, so it makes her feel good. Or a young man, he needs to feel appreciated. He needs to feel needed and wanted somewhere where he belongs. And if he's not getting that at home, he's going to be craving that somewhere else. And then, gang members kind of will give that encouragement and that support. And it's no wonder that these youngsters are kind of pulled into the life in which they are. It's just a basic human need of love, care and affection.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what you say in your TED talk, back to basics. Just doing the basic things well.
And it's key.
Yeah.
That if something wasn't broke, it doesn't need fixing. You see the relationships and the bonds that our grandparents had, they worked tirelessly to make a relationship work, because it wouldn't have been all fairy dust and rose petals for them. They would have had to have gone through challenges like you wouldn't believe, but yet they still stayed with each other. They still saw it through, and nowadays it's just so easy to kind of give in and walk away, and deep and meaningful relationships are getting diluted down now. And that bond, fractured family dynamics, dysfunctional families, and you can see that it's only going to spiral, and it's going to be generation after generation of that, and it's scary. It's very scary.
Yeah, we kind of touched upon that, early in our chat. What is your experience of young people today? What's it like growing up being young?
I wouldn't want to do it, to be honest. I think I was, now, I know I don't look it, but I'm going to be 40 in a couple of weeks. So I think maybe around about my age range was maybe the last kind of generation maybe where we had it quite easy, where we were out on our BMXs, out on our skateboards, and yes, things like the Xbox were just coming out, the Xbox One and stuff like that. Yes, we did have the you know, the Sega and stuff like that. But I mean, I was growing up with a Sinclair ZX Spectrum or the Commodore 64. You know, it took 15 minutes for a game to load. That taught us patience. Patience is non-existent now. It's gone. We live in a very, very impatient generation. I mean, it's like even us as adults. I mean, we feel like drop kicking an iPad if it through the window if it makes us wait for 10 seconds to buffer. How dare you make me wait 10 seconds? Yeah. But the kids now, you know, everything is given to them in an instant. If they want food, they can just order it and it's there. If they want to film, they can download it. You know, back in the day, we were having to wait for films to come out. We would have to go to the cinema. It would be, you know, a film would be scheduled to start at 8 o'clock, so you get all your stuff done and you're there for 7:55 ready for a film. But now, you know, if you want it, you download, play, you know, at any time. So, yeah, it's scary because they're in a very, very technologically advanced age, and it's only exploding, and it's gaining momentum, and it's evolving at a rate that we can't comprehend. So when social media, which I think is the biggest threat to our kids and our adults' mental health at this particular time, yeah, it's only going to get bigger, and it is scary. But these kids are, again, through no fault of their own, they are now in a very, very adult world. They're very open to the world. And when I'm going into primary schools, and you hear the stories of these youngsters, and they've lived life already, and there's no way that they should have experienced it in any shape, way or form. And I'm thinking to myself, back when I was that age, I was, you know, my biggest decision was, you know, well, what do I go out on? My BMX or my skateboard? You know, what do I want for tea? Fish fingers and chips or sausage and chips? Or, you know, that was our biggest decisions. But nowadays, you know, a lot of these youngsters are kind of thinking, I've got to get out of bed and I've got to face the world through anxiety and depression, and I've got to look after my disabled parents or my siblings. You know, they might be a young carer. You know, these youngsters, they might be witness to domestic violence, domestic abuse, and it's, yeah, it's scary. And that's why I say I feel like a salmon swimming upstream. But listen, if it's been bestowed upon me to be a salmon instead of a part of the stream, then that's what I'm going to try my best to do. Yeah. And listen, I don't ask for lighter burdens. I ask for stronger shoulders in which to carry them.
So when you're in schools and, you know, what are the sort of lessons that you're teaching and what are the things that you're saying to them?
Of course, there's my One Punch Can Kill workshop, which is, it does exactly what it says on the tin. But then what I've learned from the aftermath and the process of Connor's life-taking, I've applied to lifestyle. I've applied to, going back to when I was 13 and a half and sacrificing stuff. I talk about employability. I talk about work ethic. I talk about effort because it's what I'd done back when I was 13 and a half. I talk about consequences of our actions, good or bad. I talk about, you know, everything that I've learned from Connor, put it into a lifestyle message, and it resonates. It resonates with the world. It resonates with any audience. You know, there's no. Listen, I'm not going into schools and colleges and universities, youth offender institutes, prisons, Premiership football clubs, gypsy traveller community sites, corporate. The corporate world, and saying the same stuff. I'm not saying the same stuff over and over again. It's a very, very diverse message in which I've got an abundance of material. And that's why if you want me to speak for an hour, I'll speak for an hour. If you want me to speak for 2, I'll speak for 2. If you want me to speak for 3 hours, I'll speak for 3 hours if you want me to. That's why I'm no ordinary speaker. I will go because I'm Connor powered. I'm Connor powered. I speak for 2. He meant the world to me, so I've got to give him the world.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about your speaking academy, because I kind of have to. Like the TED talk that you did is unbelievable. What are some of your best speaking tips? What are what are the ways in which you help people go from amateur to pro?
I think one of the things that people need to realise is the abundance of material in which they have. They may have something called imposter syndrome, where they feel that they're not worthy enough to talk about something. And I want to tell people that every single one of you are an expert in your own right. If you've lived it, experienced it, got through it, you have the power to change somebody's life. And there is this fear. There is this fear that people want to get up and speak in front of others. I mean, if you're at a dinner party and you ask someone their opinion on something, they will pin you to the wall, and you won't be able to go anywhere. And they will give it to you, blah blah blah, and they can speak for half an hour. But put them in front of an audience, that's when the fear comes in. But I want people to know that they are an expert. I want people to know just how much of an abundance of material in which they have, and to not be an imposter. You can have training, you can have speaker training, but you know what? The best thing to do is to get up and do it, because you have been doing this since you were 12 months old, saying your first word. Speaking isn't hard, it's the pressure in which you put on yourself. And yes, that fear will come in, the nerves will come in. I don't suffer nerves when I speak.
No?
No. Have I ever had a bad talk? No. Connor powered. I'm Connor powered. When your second ever talk in which you do, you're speaking to category A sex offenders and murderers, and you're thrown in at the deep end, you sink or swim. You're in the lion's den. And you have to be very, very passionate. You have to be very forthright. You have to show authority in those kind of talks. Mm-hmm. Nerves is one thing, and if it's your bag, if you feel that take away the fear, but concentrate on the nerves, because the nerves keep you in the game. I mean, it keeps you aware, it keeps you switched on. Mm-hmm. But just go out and do it. Just go out and say it, because you are doing something that you've done since you were 12 months old. It's that simple.
That's brilliant. Brilliant stuff. I'm going to go a bit deeper. I've got a bunch of questions around about kind of purpose, legacy, success, and I really enjoy, hearing people's thoughts on these. I mean, in terms of your own existence, what do you feel is your purpose?
My purpose now is to bring light to those in darkness. Mm. What I've encountered and what I've gone through, yes, it's been like life boot camp. And listen, from a humanitarian side, if someone is going through pain and anguish and loss, having sympathy is a given. It's a natural human quality to have, to have sympathy for someone. But what this has allowed me, and that's life-changing, but what this has allowed me to do is to have not just the life-changing sympathy, but the life-saving empathy.
Yeah.
To bring that to the table and say, do you know what it is you're going through? I know what it is you're going through. I've been there. Mm-hmm. It's my job, because I've been comforted. It's now my job to try and comfort you. It's something that I don't want to do. There are days where I want to pull the covers just back over my head, and I have to do stuff through gritted teeth. I mean, people that know me, that follow me, they know that I always do a Monday motivation. I get up and I do a message every Monday morning to help people, because people moan about Monday. People moan about Monday, and they can't wait for hump day. They can't wait for Wednesday. And then, oh yeah, it's Friday. And man, you don't realise you're wishing your life away. Amazing things can happen on a Monday. It's the first opportunity of the week to change your life. And do you know what? When you have a big dose of reality and perspective brought your way, Connor would love to be around for a Monday. These people who have gone, who have been taken, they would love a Monday. Mm. Be thankful. Be thankful for the days in which you have. It says in the book of Psalms, Psalm 90, Lord, teach me to number my days, and that's what you have to do. There's nothing wrong with having ambition. There's nothing wrong with planning for the future. But number your days, be appreciative of your day that is right in front of you, right here, right now, and live it to the fullest in which you can. So yeah, so the empathy element and what was sent to me that really nailed it home for me was when I received the first email of its kind from a young boy called Nick. And just in a nutshell, he said, I was in your third talk of the day and I sat at the back to your left. If you had noticed me, you would have seen that I was shaking due to my social anxiety and my general anxiety disorder. He said, what you've said today has changed my life because you have inspired me to live my dream of becoming a history and a French teacher. He said, what you have said and what you have done has not just changed my life. He said, you've saved it because tonight I was planning on committing suicide. That's a 14-year-old boy who was thinking down those lines. It was the first letter, the first email, the first bit of feedback of its kind, which I've got many since. I've got many since because I know that these kids now are suffering. Like I said, they're very open to this adult world, and they're carrying the weight of the world on their shoulders through no fault of their own. Mm-hmm. But if I didn't want to get up that day, and if I'd pulled the covers back over my head that day and said, you know what, I don't want to turn up, I don't want to do that, would he have carried that action out? I don't know. If he did, would he have succeeded? I don't know. That's all I know is because of what I said, because of what I'd done, because I was using Connor power. I've potentially saved a mum and a dad going through the same thing as what my sister and brother-in-law went through. The death of a child, the greatest pain there is. Mm-hmm. So that is my purpose, to bring light to those in the dark and use my experiences to not just bring sympathy, to bring life-saving empathy.
Yeah. What an incredible answer.
Thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Connor's legacy, you know, I mean, he had, I think it was around 500 people that were at his funeral.
Packed out.
Yeah, yeah.
There wasn't enough room.
Yeah, oh, unbelievable. And obviously, other people kind of are living because of the life that he had and the organs that he's given on. And for such a young guy, he's had an unbelievable legacy. What would you like your own legacy to be?
To have done the best that I could with my children, to install the morals, the characteristics and the personality of good people, to live life right. To give them the strength to contend with whatever life throws their way. But to look at the bigger picture, that once I'm gone, to leave evidence here that if ever my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren are in trouble or they're going through hurt or pain, with all the stuff that I've got on social media and the stuff that I will put on social media and the stuff that is coming up in the future, that they will know that their great-great-great-great-great-great-granddad is only the click of a button away, and they can see the bloodline in which they come from. Mm. It's all about showing an example of which to follow. If they know they're from the same bloodline, they know what they're capable of. They know that they can withstand the storm, that they can overcome adversity, that they can show resilience. But above all, I want to be remembered as someone that in amongst chaos and carnage, he showed kindness. We live in the United Kingdom, and in a world where chaos and carnage often reign, kindness is king. Mm-hmm. Kindness is key, and I urge people to show it however and whenever they can. Just be kind, because it will take away so many problems in which we face. If kindness was shown to Connor that night, he would still be alive. If kindness was shown on social media instead of vulgar comments, kids wouldn't be taking their life through bullying. Kindness is the key. And yeah, I urge people to show it however and wherever they can. Mm-hmm.
How do you define success?
It's a hard one, because society will tell us that we're successful if we've got a massive house, car in which we drive, the clothes in which we wear, and how much money we've got in the bank. That's what society and culture will tell us how we are successful. And you'll have people ramming stuff down in your throat, earn 7 figures, earn this, earn that, and do you know what? When life comes round and again, doesn't just knock on your door, smashes it off of the hinges, you cannot pay a problem off. You cannot put it in your Bugatti Veyron and tell it to keep on driving and never ever come back. You can't lock it in one of your 6 bedrooms and never ever go into that bedroom again. Mm-hmm. Or show it that lovely Armani or Gucci suit in which you're wearing and it's impressed and, oh, right, okay, I'm going to leave you alone. Success is judged in many different ways. You might be going through extreme difficulties. You might be in extreme darkness, and you will be a success if you get out of bed in the morning. Success can be shown in how much kindness you showed in the face of adversity, how you reacted to something, the impact in which you had on someone else's life. Someone that said, "Do you know what, because of you, I didn't give in. I know I'm successful. I know I'm successful because I've got an email from a boy called Nick to tell me that I'm successful." I will get on any stage with any speaker in the world that wants who is a multi-millionaire, and I will put the money in your bank up against that email. How much is it's priceless. Because if that was your child, if that was your child that was thinking that way, you would give up every single penny in which you have to reverse a situation or from stop it from happening. Trust me, that money in the bank is worthless. So yeah, I know I'm a success purely because I know for definite that from that one email, the first email in which I received, there is someone walking this planet that might not necessarily have done so if I hadn't stepped up to the plate. And there's the key, because I know that I'm following Connor as much as I can because people are walking this earth because of him. So instead of me giving my own organs at this particular time, which I can't do, that's the nearest that I can get to it, is use my words to actually make sure people are walking this planet. But success will be different to different people.
Yeah. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's probably from my mum, where she used to say, if a problem used to come up, or hardships or tests and trials, she used to say to me, "There's lots to think about, but there's nothing to worry about." Lots to think about, but nothing to worry about in this case. And it's true, because 99% of what we worry about doesn't actually happen. And yeah, I thank my mum for that, because that dug me out of so many holes. Yes, you can think about something. It's not as if you're burying your head in the sand and just kind of denying it or acknowledging that it's, or trying to, make it disappear. What you're doing is, you're thinking about it, you're assessing it, and you're sorting it out. But don't let worry take away your present joy. So yeah, so lots to think about, but nothing to worry about.
That's a great piece of advice. I've never heard that either. Yeah.
She's an amazing woman, my mum. Amazing woman.
If you had the opportunity to speak to your 20-year-old self, what would you say?
First off, most probably, put £1,000 on Leicester winning the 15-16 Premier League, first and foremost. But on a serious note, then followed up by, life is the storm. You will go through the storms. You will get hit by hail. You will get hit by heavy rain. You will get hit by heavy winds. But guess what? Once that storm dies down, you will still be standing. Don't fear what comes your way. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Do not be fearful. Weather the storm. Carry on until the sun shines again.
You've thought about that one. That's such
maybe just a little bit. Just a little bit, sir. Yeah. Whether then a 20-year-old me would say, what are you talking about? Yeah, what's up with you? Yeah. No, I'm off to put £1,000 on Leicester. And it's like, yeah. I don't want to hear about the storms. I don't want to hear about this weather, this rain. You can keep that. No, I'm putting £1,000 on Leicester, man. So, yeah. But whether I would have listened or not is another thing.
Yeah, absolutely. If you had the opportunity to change anything in the world, what would it be and why?
Man, that is a question and a half, because you could go very deep with that. You could go unbelievably deep. But I suppose, as it stands, the current education and justice system, a complete overhaul. Because when you look at even the educational system, they have stuff called alternative education. If a youngster kind of becomes disengaged, dysfunctional, and kind of falls out of the mainstream learning, they will go into alternative education, and it's a real investment in which is put into it, time and support, and really analysing what these kids are good at. I'll tell you what you do, is you take away all the alternative, and it becomes education. Because if that thing isn't working, but that thing is, it's actually dragging the kids back in who have fallen out. It's the original stuff that's not working, and you've got to then look at this way of doing things. Because listen, a school is only as amazing as its finest teachers. Teachers are the key. Teachers are key. But like anything in this world, you will get the good and the bad. You will get the good and the bad. You will get the teachers who care about their kids like you wouldn't believe, and their heart breaks when these kids tell their stories and they do something right, and they've got so much joy for these kids. But then all of a sudden, you will get the ones who just clock in, clock out, and you say, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a teacher. And they might be involved in the activity of teaching, but they might not be actually teaching. These kids might not be learning. So you're just someone who is there kind of carrying out actions and just being, clocking in and clocking out. Mm-hmm. So an overhaul of this education system, because so many of these kids are expected to learn how they are taught. Teachers have to start teaching how these kids learn, because some of them are very visual, some of them are very hands-on, mm-hmm. Some of them are good listeners, some of them are very creative. Schools, in fact, to a certain degree, they kill creativity. You'll see these youngsters. Don't do music. You'll never be a musician. Mm-hmm. Don't do dance, because you'll never be a dancer. Mm-hmm. Man, like if you put them in a creative environment, man, they will start to learn naturally. Watch them flourish. But I'm all about taking something out of its original environment to put it somewhere else. Because in life, we are taken out of our comfort zone, and it's often then that we feel like we've been buried under life's problems, where in fact we've been planted to grow into something extraordinary. And it's not until we're planted somewhere else that we then flourish. Mm. And if these kids are given a different system, a different structure in which to follow, man, watch them flourish. But we're a very reactive culture instead of a very proactive culture. We'll try and mop up the mess at the end instead of dealing with the core problem. But yeah, education system I would change. In the justice system I would change. Yeah, that's what I would do at this particular time if I could.
In what way would you change the justice system?
Man, honestly, we haven't got enough time. There's so much. Honestly, we said about naming, youngsters. Yeah. I would, it's one of those things that if you're adult enough to carry out these actions and you want to step into a very, very adult world, you've got to deal with the adult consequences. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, these youngsters are carrying out these actions, not being afraid of doing so, but then all of a sudden, once the consequences hit, that's when they go infantile, and they was, I'm scared, little 13, 14-year-old boy, and it's not the case. So, honestly, I could go boom with the reasons and the hows and the whys of how I would change the justice system, because it's crazy. It's crazy.
you feel it's failed you?
Very much so. Yeah, so much. So much was done. You know, you're not allowed to bring up the background of the defendant, but you're allowed to try and blacken the character of the victim. And it's like, well, how does that work? You can't bring up past history of the assailant, of the perpetrator, because it will show them in a bad light. Honestly, well, if that's your character, if that's your personality, if that's what you're about, then listen, let's lay everything on the table. We'll take all the bad stuff out. We'll bring all the bad stuff out about the victim. And I'll tell you what, it'll weigh an ounce up against the ton of the perpetrator, trust me. So yeah, let's get it all out on the table, and let's look at everything. Let's have ultimate disclosure. Let's have it all out on the table, and then we'll make our decision based on that. But yeah, I could go on forever. Honestly, it's massive, Elliot, absolutely massive. But yeah, very much failed. But this is the thing. It's very, very, very sticky ground, because we speak to parents whose child have been murdered, and they get, you know, the perpetrator gets a 10-year sentence, 15-year sentence. Do you know what? It makes the parents feel good for about 20 minutes, half an hour, but then the realization of your loved one, your child, will never ever come back. So nothing will ever be enough. Even if it was the death penalty, where people say, they deserve the death penalty. Yes, they would go, but after 20 minutes, half an hour, the realization would still come back that your loved one is still gone, and it will not erase the injustice, because of the grief in which you're feeling, because of the love in which you have and will forever have for that person. So it will not erase it. Nothing will ever be enough, whether they get a not guilty or whether they get the death penalty and everything else in between, 10, 15, 20 years, nothing is enough. But if you show kindness, that action never happens. Will that ever be the case? I don't think so. But we have to show kindness where we can and however we can.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, Jamie, I've had, I've loved speaking with you. Honestly, your passion, your energy is just unbelievable. The work that you do is so inspiring and so incredible. And yeah, I just think you're a really great guy.
Thank you very much. I will pay you later, sir. But honestly, no, it's a real honour coming on, Elliot. Thank you very much, because any opportunity that I get to speak about my reasons as to why I do what it is that I do, any time that I get to speak about Connor Saunders, any chance I get to speak about my family, any chance I get to speak about my beautiful girls Tilly and Betsy, my son Ryan, and my grandson Teddy, and my beautiful wife Emma, any chance that I get, I'm truly thankful for. So thank you very, very much for this opportunity, sir, honestly.
It's an absolute pleasure, honestly.
Thank you.
Jamie, thank you so much.
Blessings.
Cheers.